and you'll be fascinated with the GAA Catfish story. Fill us in.
I was trying to avoid this all week, and then it became clear that was not going to be a thing I was going to be able to do. So essentially, if people are familiar with the two Johnnies Podcast, Johnny Smacks and Johnny B, they do a podcast talking about, you know, everything and anything. They had a couple of recent episodes titled the GAA Catfish, in which Johnny B shared a story of him being catfished by a person. And for anyone who isn't familiar, like, if you're to catfish someone, it's basically you're pretending to be someone else in order to get into a relationship with them, that kind of thing, start a friendship, whatever. He had basically found himself chatting to this person on Instagram under the name Cora, which is a fake name that they've used. He didn't think anything of it. He's met his last two girlfriends through Instagram. She'd said she worked in the industry, knew people from the scene, had ex-boyfriends that were involved in GAA that Johnny B kind of knew. So he was like, all right, this doesn't seem suspicious. They tried to meet up like several times. She had mad excuses every time, you know, someone died, the person didn't exist. When you looked into it, she was sick, the car broke down, everything. My fish needs a haircut, like the usual. Like they could never, ever meet up. So he started digging into it and kind of went back and asked a few of the boyfriends that she'd mentioned. And sure, one of them was like, oh, I've heard this story before. We never actually ended up meeting up, blah, blah, kept cancelling, the usual, whatever. So Johnny B kind of puts two and two together and is like, this person is having me on. Ended up meeting like her friends on a night out when he was supposed to meet her. But like it seemingly, she was pretending to be the friends as well. But as it turns out then, so they obviously played the arena very recently and they shared an abbreviated version of this story. And from that there, it's kind of snowballed and they've learned that this person has been like impersonating like up to 40 people since 2014. Like, and that's what it's definitely more than
there's
this.
Somebody in the audience watching the show who suddenly saw themselves up on screen.
Yeah, so she was using someone else's picture.
She was using someone else's picture, but the thing about that is then this person fired off loads of emails being like, oh, these are my images. I was really shocked to see this at the Three Arena. Can you please not use them anymore? I figured out who it is. It's this person in America. She's a dancer. I've no idea how this happened. I'm really sorry. But sure, like, they had done all this research themselves to try and find out who the person was. So they were like, something doesn't seem right here. So they reckon that's another fake account that your one was using. Like, where's the person of the time?
But also, she must have one hell of an online personality for it to fool so many, for them to like stay engaged for that long. You know, she actually must be a great cracker. Like,
I'm just
stay chatting to her. Like, why would you? Like, you must have an amazing picture and an amazing personality. Because,
I'm thinking about the screen time. You know what I mean? To have all those, I'm thinking of like the multiple phones and like she's trying to do everything. It is mental. Now they've opened it up. I think there's going to be a part 3. They've basically said, look, they've opened it up that they'll never release the name publicly. They don't want it. It's not like a sting operation for them, but it's more just like the psychology of it and why people do it. You're talking like well-known GAA players who are fully duped into believing that this was such and such a person.
Brainwashing, isn't it?
Totally. Like, it's a fascinating, like, look into human psychology in one way. It's like, it is just, and it's not the end of the story.
Probably no harm that it's, like, highlighted as well, just to kind of prevent it happening to other people,
When you consider that there's no real legislation in place to stop something like this happening, like, I kind of feel like something like this shouldn't have happened, but in a way it's kind of good that it did, to highlight it, as you said. Mental. Go listen to the podcast if you haven't. It's just...
Okay. It sounds like a full-time job for the person who's at the centre of this. They have been given the right to reply, but so far haven't taken it.
No, they haven't. Now, the two lads themselves have teased that there's like a follow-up coming, I think, this week. I know they were playing live at the Marquee, so they're probably very busy boys. But there is a part 3 coming, whether that's the person coming on to be like, hold my hands up, I'm sorry. Whether there's, I don't know, whether they're just shirking all responsibility. Like, this is the best thing to happen to me since Agatha Christie. You know what I mean? It's like, I need this level of deranged, like, bamboozlement from pop culture all the time. It's just incredible. It's such a story. Like,
it's like Agatha Christie, but with the GAA thrown in.
Exactly.
Very Irish.
Exactly. Bring together the best communities: sport, celebrity, pop culture, everything.